Shane Black's The Predator hits theaters this weekend. Stick around. We have your review here on Screen Junkies News.
Today's episode is brought to you by Shadow of the Tomb Raider, available September 14th. Pre-order now for 2-day early access.
I'm Dan Murrell.
And I'm Roth Cornet, and I like that homage to the original.
Well, if you liked that homage,
boy,
get ready for 8 more and Shane Black's The Predator.
Shane Black, who had a small role in The Predator, and is now the director behind this iteration in the franchise, a sequel that has the same name as the original.
Yeah, well, they added a the. It's like it's a reverse Facebook. It started with no the, and then they added a the. Yeah. So now we have The Predator.
The Predator, which, let's just start in total. What were your expectations going in? Are you a fan of Predator? And what did you walk away with?
I am.
So basically, what's your review?
Exactly. I am a big fan of the original Predator movie, the one from 1987.
Me too.
So much so that I'd heard so many mixed things about the other sequels that I never saw any of them. Mm-hmm. So I've only ever been exposed to the original Predator movie, which I love very much. So going into this one, I didn't really have a whole lot of expectations because I didn't really know where else, other than narrating the Kramit that we did, I didn't really know where else the story had gone. Mm-hmm. So I was excited to see, and Shane Black is a screenwriter that I have enjoyed. I love The Nice Guys. I am a fan of Iron Man 3. I know it's a very polarizing film. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. So I'm a fan of his work. I'm a fan of his writing. And you've got Fred Dekker also with screenplay credits. So there was a lot of things going for this movie.
Absolutely.
And the first 10 minutes or so, I was like, hell yes. This is awesome. This is reminiscent of the original, but not a ripoff. It's taking it further. It's taking it to more extreme places. I am digging this. And then the rest of the movie kept going, and I gradually started. It was a little bit like going insane.
Yeah.
Watching this movie is as close to, I would imagine, what going insane is like.
It is an interesting escalation. It's like an increasing matrix of inanity and lunacy, and this is what it really, I love the Predator. I love Predator as well. Mm-hmm. One of our Easter eggs here on the set is Predator and the Xenomorph dancing as Belle and the Beast. Yes. So it felt to me like, okay, I think Shane Black, to your point, is an excellent filmmaker. He wrote Lethal Weapon, so he certainly understands and knows how to riff on the action era of that time. He knows how to tell a very funny story that still moves really quickly. He does great action. I also like Iron Man 3, and a lot of people do not, which I understand, or they don't like certain elements of it. But what's insane to me is this movie even ends with him ripping himself off in terms of something from Iron Man, which I won't say what it is because I don't want to say any spoilers, but I will say it's difficult to break down what doesn't work about this movie without spoilers. We won't, don't worry.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a much more interesting and fruitful conversation for you, I think, as a moviegoer after the film and perhaps even during the film about what's happening.
What is going on?
That you may find a bit flabbergasting.
Yeah.
Because really, if you want to go to the kind of movie that you can with a friend laugh along with, and sort of talk with each other and make jokes about during the movie, this is actually it.
Yeah.
Because that's what it lends itself.
You won't be able to hear each other.
Yes.
So you might want to take paper for notes.
And pass notes to each other. But it feels to me as though Shane Black had a vision in his mind of what he wanted this movie to be. Mm-hmm. And the studio had a very different vision. And I don't know this to be true, but this is what this movie feels like. And they gave him maybe 5 or 6 notes that he didn't agree with. And he just couldn't get them to yield. And he was going to have to do those notes. And he, at a certain point, went, fine, I'll do all the notes.
I'm doing everything.
I'm doing every note. You want notes? I'll give you notes. And he went to the guy in the mailroom. You got a note?
Yeah.
Let's do that too.
It's in the movie.
It's in the movie because it is so nonsensical, so chaotically structured.
It starts off very linearly.
Yes,
The
it
first
does.
30 minutes are very Just like you have a guy, you're tracking Boyd Holbrook, and you're tracking his character, and you have this, and then you introduce another character that gets brought in. Like, okay, now you're tracking this, and then you get another. And it was a little bit like when you used to like the old variety shows with a plate spinner, where they put a plate on a thing, and then that would spin for a while, and then they put another thing. Oh, now there's 2 plates. It felt like by the end of this movie there was 47 plates, and Shane Black was like running around keeping them all, but they're all just crashing and falling off, and he's like putting up new plates, throwing around, and it's just, I mean, there's like major characters that are just gone.
Yeah.
Like people that have a lot of screen time throughout the movie, and then toward the end of the movie, they're like, what? No, I don't have time for him. He's dead. He's gone. They disappeared. They're gone for 20 minutes. Where'd they go? It doesn't matter. It's just like, what is going on?
They're dispatched with extreme prejudice. With extreme prejudice.
And no fanfare. There's one that's like 10 frames, and this character's just gone.
Just done.
And it's like, but they built this person up to be like a major person in the movie. Like, what? What? And it's not like in a subverting your expectations kind of way. It's literally like I don't have time for this. I have 14 other things going on. And it's just like, by the end, it's just information overload.
It's literally like killing not characters in a way that of course characters are going to get killed as a Predator movie.
Yeah.
But it's actually like killing narrative threads because you can no longer deal with it. It's like the sequence in Deadpool 2 that's meant to be a joke, but played for reality. It's insane. And then, in addition to that, there's so little. I really feel like he gave up because objects show up that are necessary for the plot that would not be where they are, like microscopes. Like
who doesn't carry around a microscope?
Exactly. Connections are made for no good reason in terms of the storyline. People have information that they would not have. It's just at a certain point, like literally a prop shows up on someone's face out of nowhere and then is gone in the next moment of the scene because they did several reshoots and it feels like it really is cobbled together. And that it's like adaptation in the sense that it's as if somebody sat down and said, this is the movie I would never want to make. And then accidentally, that's the movie that they make.
Yeah, the first 30 minutes of this movie, I really dug. I really enjoyed because if you like, it's kind of like, can you ever have too much of a good thing? And the answer is yes. It's like we as the audience were like, I want a Shane, because I think everybody, when they heard Shane Black was going to do a Predator movie, they were like, yes, I want to see that. But it's kind of like, that story you hear about, getting caught smoking cigars. And then you get caught and the parent makes you sit in the closet and smoke a whole box of cigars. This felt like Shane Black trapping us in a Predator closet and making us smoke the whole box of cigars because it's like there is some amazing
smoke that Predator dog too, Dan.
I mean, you have to smoke every Predator cigar you could ever possibly want. You're getting sick and they just keep shoving cigars at you. Every version of a Predator. I mean, if you want Predator action, you got Predator action. There's every version of a bloody Predator kill, which again, when it starts, is like that is awesome, and by the end, it's like it's just things going and flying and blood. And I'm just like, oh my god, this is so much.
It's not awesome by the end. That whole opening sequence, right? That's super violent, and in that way, like that's part of what Predator is all about, right? Yeah. Except that this particular Predator had an entirely different motivation, so that everything that Predator did at the beginning, by the time that Predator's motivation is revealed at the end, makes zero sense. No. The behavior makes zero sense.
The Predators are given 4 different stories to juggle themselves, and they're nonverbal, which is very difficult for Predators.
But it's even worse when they become verbal.
The thing. There's some very strange things. There are some people out there that are going to go see this movie and they're going to love it because it has a lot of great action in it. It's got a lot of laughs in it. This was not a movie that was devoid of merit in my eyes. I know a lot of people, really, really not liked it. I think there are some really strong elements to this movie, but there are also some things that are just. It is for me, for my taste, it was way too scrambled, way too much jammed into this thing. Nonsensical by the end of it, as far as keeping track of who's where and what and why and how. Yeah. Completely, if any kind of linear structure or really sense is what you require in a movie, I think you're going to lose interest as this goes on. It was way too much information overload at the end. And the script for me, for Shane Black, it had some laughs, but then part of it was like just watching some of the things that happen and the way that some of the characters are portrayed. It felt like a script that you would watch that was written in the 80s that you would watch now and go like, that hasn't aged very well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a throwback in a lot of the wrong ways.
Yes.
And that kind of took me out of it as well. You know, he's got that humor, but I feel like he was kind of going for, and he and Fred Dekker were both kind of going for the kind of vibe of the 80s, and it doesn't mesh necessarily well in some ways.
No, it doesn't mesh at all. It feels very much like I thought the same thing. It feels very much to me like there's moments, and you see them in the trailer, where you can feel that this is a Shane Black film, or that inside there somewhere is an actual Shane Black film. You know, there's sort of the joking around about the idea of, does it actually make sense? This is in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler at all. Does it actually make sense to refer to a predator as a predator? Because really they're more like a hunter.
Which
and
is great.
I've said that on several occasions. He's really more like the dentist that killed the lion. Like the predator in the original movie is a jerk. It's a trophy hunter. So that said, there's flavors, and there's actually one minute of a plot thread that is the most interesting plot thread they have in the movie, but it's so woefully unexplored that what it feels like to me is like, again, that he went in with this idea of making a movie that was riffing on the action films of the 80s, but updating it and turning it on its head and subverting those tropes so that it becomes a comedy that is also an action film that's self-referential, right? Yeah. That would have been awesome had he nailed that. But the problem is, came this tidal wave of notes that I think he just got buried in, and it ends up being this absolute kinetic mess. That said, it's a kinetic mess that once you realize that's what it is and you give over to it and you laugh at it and the ridiculousness of it, I did laugh a lot, not when he wanted me to.
Right.
You know? So there is a certain, I don't know if it's Schadenfreude joy in that, of watching the train wreck happen.
It's watching this thing happen and just kind of sitting back and going like, wow, like it is certainly different. It is certainly not like any film that I've seen in a long time, but not, I don't think, in the intentional way.
I don't think so either. And maybe not in a good way.
And I don't think in a good way in a lot of places. But if you want action, there's definitely action. If you want predators killing people in very bloody, extreme ways,
that's there.
Definitely have that. It does have some laughs, but ultimately it was just way too scattershot, way too jammed with things. I was longing for the simplicity of Arnold and those guys in the jungle, because that seemed like it had way more stakes.
It did.
And tension than this did by the end. It was just all noise and sound, and the Predator had long been demystified as far as seeing it and it being cool and menacing, and it was just another shoot 'em up, bad alien crashing things, and it just was too much for me.
And it's also a very simple premise in that first film. You know, it's like, you find these literal and figurative hot zones, and hunt for sport is what the Predator is doing. You know, and this is the opposite. Like, the threads around and the mythology is so convoluted. It's hard to say for me, it's hard to say a recommendation or not, because I do think that, like, just on a structural level, this is a poorly done movie. Period.
It's a poorly told story.
It's a poorly told story. It has continuity errors. There are massive logical errors and gaps. It is unwieldy. It is jam-packed with things that don't necessarily connect. That said, there is something about it that can be entertaining to watch. So it's almost as if I would say it is a bad movie that you may enjoy watching.
That's a great summary. I will echo that. It's not a good movie at all, but if you went out and saw it and said, I really enjoyed watching that film, I would get it.
Yeah.
I would get it, but I can't recommend it. Yeah. It was not for me, even though it did have some really cool stuff in it that I enjoyed. Ultimately, was not up my alley, but it may be up yours.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you did see it, did you enjoy it? Why did you enjoy it? Did you find any of the issues that we had with it, or was it just sort of let go and have a good time at the theater? We will be back with more reviews.
Oh yeah,
all the time.
all the time.
Yeah,
always, forever. Thanks
and
for watching.
ever.